friends, welcome back to my studio. Today I want to show you how to put together this simple balloon rainbow made from 260s. It comes together super fast and makes a charming addition to a party or event. So to start out, you're going to need 6 260s in your rainbow color scheme of choice, and whatever color you want to be the innermost arch, we're going to start with that balloon and put 2 pumps of air into it and tie it off in a knot. Then bend the balloon into the arch shape you want your overall rainbow to be. Once you've achieved that shape, tie the end of the 260 to the nozzle, and that'll hold the balloon shape in place as we move forward. It's important that you're happy with this first balloon shape because as we continue to add balloons on top of this one, they will all echo this same shape. So if you want a more obtuse rainbow, you'll want to spread the ends apart, or if you want a tighter rainbow, you'll want to bring those ends in. Now we can finish inflating the rest of the 260 balloons, and each color in the rainbow gets 1 pump of air more than the previous color. So blue is my second color in the rainbow, and it gets 3 pumps of air. The green balloon is going to get 4 pumps, yellow 5 pumps, orange 6 pumps, and finally my last color, pink, is going to get 7 pumps of air. Once I've got all those inflated and tied off, we can then start securing all these layers together into the rainbow. Now I'm going to be using glue dashes to secure my layers together, and I'll be using 3 glue dashes for each layer. My first glue dash, I want to place 1 inch in from the nozzle and make sure that it's on the outside edge of my rainbow, right at the middle point. I don't want these to be too high or too low, otherwise you might see them in the finished rainbow. The second glue dash goes at the very apex of the arch, and the third one 1 inch in from the other end. Now once you've got the glue dashes in place, we would then want to test fit the next balloon of the rainbow. Snug this balloon right up against the first one, and here you want to look at the ends of the balloons. You want each end to always be equal with or longer than the tails of that first arch. Once you're satisfied that it's long enough, you're then going to remove the paper backing from the glue dashes and snug the 2 balloons together so that they're touching, always making sure these are flat against the table. By assembling the rainbow flat on the table, we'll ensure that the rainbow stands nice and straight when we're done. If any of your balloons are shorter than that first balloon, you can always squeeze the length of it, and that'll push the air out to the ends, making it long enough. Now you'll notice that I've got 1 tail here on the left side and 1 tail here on the right side. Every time I add a new layer to my arch, I want to alternate those tails back and forth because we'll use those to tie our clouds into the rainbow later. As you glue on each balloon, you always want to make sure they're snugged right up next to each other as you make that gluing connection, and that'll prevent gaps from forming later on when we stand up our rainbow. If you notice any gaps are happening, you can always add more glue dashes along the length of it. 3 is just the minimum you need to have. I'm going to repeat these steps until all of my 260s are glued together and I got my finished rainbow. Now you'll notice some of the ends don't quite align with each other. Don't worry about that because those are all going to be hidden down in the clouds. And speaking of clouds, that's what we need to make next. So I'm going to inflate 40 white 5-inch balloons using my hand pump, and I'm going to inflate those to various sizes between 1 and 3 pumps of air. I'm going to tie all of those off, and then I'm going to bring them together into pairs. So you're going to take 2 balloons, wrap those nozzles around twice, and tie them in a simple knot. I'm going to repeat this with all of my white balloons, making sure I mix up the sizes that I've tied together. Now I need to make clusters of 6 balloons, so I'm going to take 2 pairs, bring them together so that the nozzles touch in the center, and then twist 1 balloon from each pair around each other, and that's going to lock it together in a quad. To this quad, I'm going to bring 1 more pair into the party and bring those so that the nozzles touch once again in the center, bring those 2 balloons all the way around, and then twist those 2 balloons around each other, and that will lock them into a cluster of 6. I'm going to make 5 of these clusters for the clouds and then leave the rest of the pairs loose so I can fill in any gaps later on. I'll be using all of those 260 tails to tie our rainbow and clouds together. I'm going to grab my first cluster and flatten 3 of those balloons against the table so it stands nice and sturdy. Then I'm going to take the tail of my 260 purple balloon and slip it between the white balloons so that it's touching the nozzle of those white balloons in the cluster. Then I'm going to grab my second cluster and nestle it right up against the first cluster before slipping the ends of the rainbow down into that white cluster, making sure the nozzles of the 260s are touching the nozzles in that white cluster. Then take one of your 260 tails and wrap it around a couple of those white balloons to secure it in place. Continue snugging the white balloons in and tying them down with the 260 tails until you've got all 5 of your clusters in place. Because we're using an organic approach to our clouds, you'll have to rotate the balloons around until you're happy with how they look. So make sure your rainbow is sitting nice and level on the table, and if there's any gaps in your clouds, you can take some of those loose pairs we left from earlier and tuck them around the 260s to tie them in place. Those extra pairs are really going to fluff out the cloud and hide any of the mechanics in making our rainbow. If you happen to see any 260 tails poking out, you can tuck them down between some of the white balloons, or you can add even more pairs on top. There are so many different ways we can incorporate rainbows into our parties or events. You can tie some fishing line to this and attach it to a wall using a command hook, or you can set these down in the middle of a table and make a fun and festive centerpiece. If you're planning a rainbow-themed party, you should check out this video next. This is my rainbow backdrop that's 8 feet wide and complements this centerpiece perfectly. So until the next project, remember, stay creative everybody! Bye!